very much for being here today. I want to thank Dean Broderick as well as the Law Review Editorial Board and Eva Seidelman in particular for organizing such a great panel. And I also want to thank my fellow panelists. It's a real privilege to be in such great company. And finally, I'd like to thank Professor Malakana, for whose class I wrote this paper and for his encouragement throughout the process. My paper, No Justice, No Justice, Just Peas.
It is hard.
It is. Why Wal-Mart?
Dessert part?
Right. I can't tell you how many times I spelled it dessert instead of desert. But my paper looks at the problem of disparate access to healthy food in the district. It looks at the root causes of the problem, and it looks at solutions to the problem. It looks at public policy, dealing with it, and makes some recommendations as to which policies will actually address the root causes of food deserts and help solve the problem. So there are a lot of definitions of food deserts out there. They have to do with one's physical proximity and the relative affordability of fresh food in a neighborhood. But I think most of you are probably familiar with food deserts. If you've ever been in an area where your breakfast choices are Twinkies from a gas station or greasy fast food sandwiches, or if the produce at the nearest market is almost rotten and more expensive than it would be at the supermarket that you have to take 2 buses to or drive more than an hour to, then you know what a food desert is. In DC, the food deserts are primarily in wards 5, 7, and 8. The dark purple areas indicate the food desert areas. And just by way of comparison in terms of what that means, Ward 3 has 1 grocery store for every 7,300 people, while Ward 8 has 1 store for every 2,300 people. This correlates with income. Wards 2 and 3 have the highest average income, while Wards 7 and 8 have the lowest. This is in a context of 30% of households in the district with children were unable to afford enough food at some point during the year in 2000, according to DC Hunger Solutions. 47% of DC's children live in poverty, and at the same time, DC is 9th for childhood obesity. To make matters worse, the pending cuts to the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, otherwise known as food stamps, in the 2012 Farm Bill will make, if they pass, will make matters worse, creating further insecurity for the 140,000 district residents who receive SNAP benefits. So, unfortunately, DC is not unique. Food insecurity exists everywhere in the U.S. Increasing numbers of people are enrolling in SNAP. Greater demand is being placed on food pantries and as well as food banks. So luckily, actually, I want to go back to this slide. So the reasons for food deserts are complicated. They have to do, one, with our agricultural policy, our federal agriculture policy that subsidizes the corn industry so that foods made with high fructose corn syrup are cheap. Same goes with soy. It's much more affordable to feed your family on these products than it is to feed your family on fresh vegetables. But also, we have to, particularly when we're looking at DC and the fact that the food desert areas correlate with race and class, that we have a history of racism in this society, where economic barriers, employment discrimination, higher rates of unemployment among African Americans made it less likely for a grocery retailer to want to set up in an African American neighborhood, as well as a legacy of redlining, where African Americans who wanted to start businesses were, well, for I mean, starting with the founding of our country and with slavery, but on through segregation and redlining and denial of business loans, which, as Rachel explained in her presentation, continues today. So food deserts are a huge problem in DC. They're a huge problem all over the country. They exist in rural areas, they exist in urban areas, and it's good that federal policymakers are taking action. The Healthy Food Financing Initiative uses new market tax credits to fund healthy food retail in food desert areas. First Lady Michelle Obama has made food deserts her premier issue. She has promised to work to end food deserts by 2017 as part of her Let's Move campaigns, saying that no one should have to take 3 city buses to get to another community in order to go to the grocery store. And we're lucky that we have had some very progressive policy initiatives here in DC as well. The Feed DC Act increases the availability of fresh produce at corner stores and other local stores. At the same time, it also attempts to encourage large grocery retailers to set up shop in food deserts. The Healthy Schools Act improves the quality of school lunches, while at the same time encouraging schools encouraging schools to source local, sustainably grown food in school lunches. And they actually will pay an additional 5 cents per meal for each meal that has local produce. The Food Production and Urban Gardens Act, which was actually enacted in 1986 thanks to Councilman David A. Clark, yes, encourages community gardens and encourages growing food in DC through community gardens and urban farming on vacant land. So these programs are, these laws are great because they encourage local business, they build a market for locally grown sustainable food, and they also encourage food growing in the district. They've allowed for some very innovative, interesting programs that have been carried out by agencies within district government. The Department of Small and Local Business Development and the Department of Health, to name 2, partnering with nonprofit organizations on programs like the Healthy Corners program that places fresh food in corner stores. Another really cool program is Prescriptions for Vegetables, where clients or patients within the Unity Healthcare, DC's healthcare system, who are at risk for diet-related health problems will receive a prescription for fruits and vegetables that they can take to the farmer's market and get those, as well as the SNAP double value for SNAP benefits at farmers markets. Is another great way to make fresh food more accessible for those who otherwise would not be able to afford it or would not otherwise have access to it. So there's some other interesting programs in other jurisdictions. Baltimore has the Baltimore Net Program, where Residents of food deserts can place orders for groceries either online or at the library and then pick them up at the library. They're actually also, this program has been really, really successful, and they're expanding it into senior centers as well. So I think that's very interesting. And that was a partnership between the Department of Health and a local grocery retailer. New York's Green Cart program provides training, mobile carts, and then discounted produce. So really it's wholesale produce that vendors otherwise wouldn't be able to, oh, well, they wouldn't be able to, they'd have to pay more for it. And this program is that basically the vendors set up in food desert areas that are near train stops or heavily trafficked areas. So this is a great way to, it makes it a convenient way for people to buy affordable food in their daily lives. And it also provides job opportunities for the vendors. Detroit and other cities have created food policy councils. The Detroit Food Policy Council was actually initiated by the Detroit Black Food Security Network, and what they did was create a quasi-governmental body comprised largely of leaders from organizations working on food security, as well as representatives from the mayor's office and the city health department. And they act as an advisory, kind of a combination of an advisory group as well as a watchdog organization to review the state of food security in Detroit. Other food policy councils have a bit more of a formal role in municipal government. They'll work to connect their role is often to work interagency and to connect the work of agencies like the Department of Health, like the various economic development agencies, regulatory agencies, to streamline the process and make sure everyone's working together. Another interesting program are food business incubators that make commercial kitchens available so that food entrepreneurs and food entrepreneurs can receive training and licensing so that they can bake their brownies or cook their salsa or even earn a catering certification in a licensed facility. And then so finally, the Philadelphia's Common Market is a food hub, and what it does is it allows regional sustainable farmers to connect with businesses in food deserts by creating a distribution network. So they sort of model, their model is similar to a large retailer in that they're taking advantage of some of the economies of scale, but they're a nonprofit and they make the food more affordable for businesses to sell. And they also, and this is really important, they also they source to school and hospital contracts, so they're sort of building on it's a very complementary program in terms of the local food procurement provisions in the city in city policy. Sort of the food hub is able to build onto that, and the two programs kind of reinforce each other. Okay, so finally, we see a lot of urban farms, both nonprofit and commercial farms. An example here in the district is Common Good City Farm. and another is Growing Power in Milwaukee. And these are really interesting because they're urban farms and they're not practicing traditional agricultural models. It allows for some pretty interesting work around like innovative agricultural techniques. So anyways, I'm going to move forward. The problem, so there are a lot of interesting programs and there are ways that city policy can support this. The problem is that cities often want to, instead of supporting these programs, they think the answer is to bring a Wal-Mart in, because a Walmart will, you know, if you put a Walmart in a food desert, then that increases access to healthy food. The problem is that when Walmart, first of all, Walmart pays low wages, 25% less than other retail workers. Wages drop by 10% all across the map when a Walmart comes to town. And because Walmart doesn't pay a living wage, many employees often have to rely on SNAP, state health care, and other programs, and this equates to subsidization of Wal-Mart. It equates to a corporate subsidy. So Wal-Mart is also bad for local businesses and local economies. 40 cents of each dollar spent at Walmart stays in a local economy, but 68% spent at a local business stays in the economy, in the local economy. Walmart destroys 40% more jobs than it creates when it comes to town. Okay, so the solutions here are supporting living wage ordinances, tying any kind of concessions to a company like Wal-Mart with very strong community benefits agreements that enforce living wages, benefits, and other socially responsible practices, encouraging community investment, community-led economic development, and investing in community-based enterprises, sustainable economic development, and policies that encourage local capital and corporate accountability. So I'm just going to move very quickly through this, but here are my top 10 policies that I think we need in DC in order to end food deserts. I'm not saying that that'll solve the problem entirely, but we need to end the supermarket tax incentive, or at least demand community benefits agreements and with clawback provisions. Tie liquor license renewals to healthy food sales and good labor practices. Create structures that coordinate better between agencies to ease some of the regulatory issues. Make DC public school commercial kitchens available for food training and licensing when they're not in use. Establish a central kitchen for unprocessed food preparation, job training, and licensing. Change zoning regulations to allow farmers markets as a matter of right in certain zones. Provide regulatory exemptions for healthy food vending on public property in DC food desert areas. Encourage SNAP eligible grocery delivery programs in food desert areas. Allow nonprofits to lease unused land to commercial farmers while not jeopardizing their nonprofit tax status. And then strengthen local food procurement provisions in local food service contracts. Thank you.